Alex Stec, joined by FC Cincinnati's newest managing owner, all the way from California, Meg Whitman. Meg, it's an honor to sit down and talk with you today. Thanks for taking the time and welcome back to the Queen City.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's great to be back in Cincinnati in a different role.
I would imagine the city looks a little different from when you started your career here with Procter & Gamble. How have you seen Cincinnati change and develop?
Yeah, well, I first came as a brand assistant at Procter & Gamble in 1979. So, things were remarkably different. The renaissance that Cincinnati has undergone in the last decade or so is simply amazing. I look at over the Rhine where the new FC Cincinnati Stadium is going to be, and that was a place we didn't go back in 1979. And just driving around and seeing the revitalization of the downtown as well as that whole area, it's pretty remarkable. It seems like a city on the move.
A city on the rise, as Jeff Birding alludes to it quite frequently, but you mentioned the West End Stadium. Under construction right now, but the future home of FCC in 2021. What do you think of it? I'm sure you've seen the renderings.
I have. It's extraordinary, right? I mean, it's simply beautiful. And I've certain, maybe your folks have seen it, the pictures of it lit up at night. And I think it's going to be a place that everyone wants to go. And I think it's going to end up being a hub of Cincinnati.
So what sparked your interest in FC Cincinnati? Why soccer, why MLS, and why this club specifically?
I'd say a couple things. One is, I think about it in four ways. First is the sport. Second is the town, the region. Third is the other owners. And then fourth is sort of the future. So I'd say first, soccer. I just think soccer is on the rise. It is, I think it's the sport of the future, right? There's been all these different professional sports. I think that MLS and soccer is going to be the future. Just look at the demographics. Look at how many young children are playing soccer. It's really remarkable. I don't know about you, but I bet you have a lot of friends whose young children are playing soccer, and I think that really bodes well for the future. The second is Cincinnati. As we discussed, we were looking for a place we thought was on the rise, that there was a lot of growth potential, that maybe something like the soccer team could help revitalize the region. So we were excited about that. And then, life is too short to do business with people that you don't want to be in business with. And we met the Lindners and the farmers and the other minority owners, and we just liked the group of people. We just said, they're smart, they're trying to do the right thing, they're invested in Cincinnati, good business people, and so we really liked that. And then I think, you put all those together and then it's the future.
You mentioned soccer being the future, a sport on the rise. What has impressed you the most, not only about the growth of the sport overall, but about this club and its rapid expansion?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, they were able to get an expansion franchise very quickly, and they moved to build this stadium with remarkable alacrity. And then they're playing in a temporary stadium, and look at the attendance numbers. I think it's the third highest attendance in the entire league for a team that's been in place for a very short period of time. So I thought that really boded well for the future of soccer in Cincinnati, because if you've got all these fans coming to a temporary stadium with a team that is just a year or two old, that's pretty good.
And you talk about the relationships you've already built with the other owners, Carl Lindner III, even President Jeff Birding, the amount of effort and just the vision that they've laid out for this club. How exciting is it to join a project like that, and how have you seen the impact in the community, the connectivity, and the club implementing its pillars of being family friendly and active in the community?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. It's certainly the other ownership group, but I think Jeff Birding, you always look to see who's in charge, who is not only the investor, but who's running it. And we were super impressed with Jeff and his overall team. And I think they laid out what the pillars were that they wanted to connect with in the community, and they're executing pretty well. I mean, especially when you think how short a time it's been. I mean, we're not talking about a decades-old team. We're talking about a team that's just a little bit over a year old. And so what they've done so far is impressive, and I think they're going to do more.
Well, speaking of impressive, you boast an incredibly impressive resume as a business executive, and everyone is thrilled that you've joined the Orange and Blue. You're now a part of the family officially. What would you like to accomplish here with FCC?
Yeah. Well, remember, I'm a minority owner, but I want to be as helpful as I can. And I have experience in some things that I think could complement the ownership team here. So obviously I have a deep, deep technology background and a consumer technology background, after my 10 years at eBay and of course at Hewlett-Packard. I also now am in the content business with my new startup called Quibi, but I did spend 3 years at the Walt Disney Company. So I know a lot about content, and if you think about what is going to be important for for, I think, FC Cincinnati, it's going to be a combination of technology and content. And then last but not least, our family has a real estate business as well, and there's a lot of real estate to be developed in this area, and so maybe we can provide some perspective. So we're just here to be helpful and be available when called upon.
And what is your greatest learning experience throughout your impressive career that's helped you become one of the most powerful and influential women in the world?
Well, thank you. I would say, listen, I have an insatiable curiosity. I love to learn new things, and I'm doing it again with FC Cincinnati. I mean, I've got to learn the soccer business, I've got to learn how this all works, and that I love that. And so I think just curiosity and wanting to do your best work all the time. I started my career right here in Cincinnati at Procter & Gamble, and my first assignment was to figure out how big the hole should be on the shampoo cap. And I said, you know what? No one is ever going to do as good a job as I'm going to do on figuring this out. And that was sort of a hallmark of just put your head down and do the best job that you know how to do.
Great work ethic. And finally, can fans expect to see you here on March 14th for the 2020 home opener?
Yeah. So if we can, I'd like to very much. My startup is launching on April 6th. And that's a big day for us, so we're going to have to figure out where we are on the path to April 6th. If we are all in good shape and everything's going well, I'll be here on March 14th. If we have a few loose ends to tie up in California, I might not be.
Well, thank you so much for the time, Meg. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.